The blue waters of Zelathi Prime sparkled under three suns as Admiral Kethvar swam through the crystal corridors of the command center. His gill slits fluttered with worry as he watched the communication screens. Strange signals had been coming from the edge of their star system for weeks now. "Admiral, we have another message from the humans," called Communication Officer Veltar, her tentacles dancing over the control panels. The translator worked hard to change the alien sounds into something the Zelathi could understand. Kethvar floated closer to listen. The human voice was deep and calm. "Greetings to the Zelathi Commonwealth. We are humans from the Sol system and nearby colonies. We come in peace and hope to build friendship between our peoples. We wish to trade knowledge and work together for the good of all." The Admiral's four eyes blinked in sequence. These humans seemed nice enough. In 300 years of space travel, the Zelathi had met many species. Most were like them, peaceful traders who solved problems by talking, not fighting. War was something from the old stories, before the Commonwealth learned that words worked better than weapons. "Send a reply," Kethvar told Veltar. "Tell them we welcome peaceful contact. Invite them to send trade ships to our outer stations." The weeks that followed were pleasant. The humans sent small ships with strange but interesting goods. Their technology was different from Zelathi designs but seemed to work well. The human traders were curious about everything and asked many questions about Zelathi culture and history. Captain Zoran of the merchant vessel Flowing Current reported back after meeting human traders. "They are very interested in our methods of underwater construction. They want to know how we build cities beneath the waves. Strange creatures. They cannot breathe water like we do." The Zelathi leaders found this amusing. Most species they knew could live in water or had learned to do so. These humans seemed stuck with breathing only air. How did they manage to travel between stars with such a limitation? Everything changed on the day the sky went dark. Admiral Kethvar was reviewing trade reports when his aide burst into the command chamber. "Admiral, something terrible approaches. From deep space." The main screen lit up with images that made Kethvar's heart skip beats. Massive shapes moved between the stars. Not ships, but creatures. Living things the size of moons, covered in metal and machinery. Behind them came thousands of smaller vessels that looked like they were grown instead of built. "What are they?" whispered Communications Officer Veltar. The answer came soon enough. The creatures began eating. Not the food or resources on planets. They ate the planets themselves. Kethvar watched in horror as the agricultural world of Caldara disappeared bite by bite into the mouths of the metal-covered beasts. The outer defense station sent desperate messages before going silent. "They're everywhere. The creatures are breaking apart our ships like toys. Send help. Send." Static filled the communication channels. Fear spread through the crystal corridors of the command center like poison in water. These creatures, the computer called them devourers based on their behavior, moved from world to world with no interest in talking or negotiating. They simply consumed everything in their path. "How long until they reach Zelathi Prime?" Kethvar asked his tactical officer. 72 hours, Admiral. Maybe less if they don't stop to fully consume the outer worlds." The Admiral's tentacles went limp with despair. The Commonwealth Defense Fleet was designed for rescue missions and patrol duties. Their ships had light, weapons meant for dealing with pirates or dangerous space creatures. Against these devourers, they would last minutes at most. "Options?" he asked his staff. "We could evacuate the population," suggested one officer. "Load the civilian ships and flee to uninhabited systems." "With what ships?" another replied. "The devourers have already destroyed half our transport fleet. We cannot move 2 billion Zelathi in 70 hours. "What about our allies? The Centauri Republic? The Vegan Trade Union?" Kethvar checked the long-range communications. Bad news filled every channel. "The Centaurians are dealing with their own devourer invasion. The Vegans have closed their borders and refuse to help anyone. We are alone." For long moments, the only sound in the command chamber was the gentle bubbling of the water recycling systems. Outside the transparent walls, normal life continued. Zelathi swam between the towers of their underwater cities, unaware that death approached from the stars. "Wait," said Veltar suddenly. What about the humans? The humans? Kethavar turned to her. They are a young species. They have barely started exploring space. What could they do against something like this? But they offered friendship. Maybe they would help. The Admiral looked at the tactical display again. The Devourers had finished with Keldara and were moving toward the next world in their path. Each planet they consumed made them stronger and their fleet larger. Do we have any other choice? He asked the room. Nobody answered. Open a channel on all frequencies, Kethavar ordered. Emergency broadcast to all listening stations. The communication system hummed to life. Kethavar took a deep breath of water through his gills and began speaking words he never thought he would say. This is Admiral Kethavar of the Zalathi Commonwealth Defense Force. We are under attack by an unknown enemy force. Our worlds are being destroyed. Our people are dying. We offer everything we have to anyone who will help us. Our technology, our wealth, our eternal service, anything. Please, we have 70 hours before our homeworld falls. If there is anyone out there who can help us, we beg you to answer. The message went out across space, carried by quantum transmitters to every known civilization. Most channels stayed silent. A few sent messages of sympathy but no offers of help. Then the human frequency crackled to life. Zalathi Commonwealth. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Colonial Administration. We received your distress call. Confirm your situation. You are under attack by hostile forces. Kethavar's tentacles shook as he grabbed the communication device. Yes. They call themselves Devourers. They consume entire planets. Our defense fleet cannot stop them. Please, if you can spare any ships for evacuation. Negative on evacuation, Admiral Kethavar. That won't be necessary. Stand by. The channel went quiet for several minutes. When it came back, the voice was different, older, more serious. Zalathi, Commonwealth, this is Admiral James Chen of the Terran Navy. We have reviewed your situation and analyzed the threat data you transmitted. Aid is en route. Hold your position and keep your people in sheltered areas. Estimated arrival time is 18 hours. Admiral Chen, you don't understand, Kethavar said quickly. These creatures have destroyed everything we sent against them. They have thousands of ships. How many vessels can you send? Sufficient numbers, Admiral. Chen out. The communication ended, leaving the Zalathi command staff in confused silence. How many humans live in space? Asked Veltar. Maybe a few million across a dozen colonies, replied the intelligence officer. They are still a young civilization. Kethavar floated in the center of the command chamber, hope and despair fighting in his hearts. The humans had answered their call for help. But what could such a young species do against an enemy that had destroyed the Commonwealth's entire defense force? Still, it was better than facing the end alone. At least some brave souls would stand with them when the darkness came. If only he knew what was really coming. Admiral Kethavar had not slept in 36 hours. The command center buzzed with activity as his staff tracked the approaching Devourer fleet. Outside the underwater city, emergency shelters were being prepared in the deepest ocean trenches. If the humans failed, when they failed, maybe some Zalathi could survive the initial attack. Status report, Kethavar called out as he swam to the main tactical display. The Devourers have finished consuming Velkata, reported his tactical officer. They're moving towards Zalathi Prime now. Arrival time, 36 hours. Kethavar studied the enemy formation on the screen. Thousands of biomechanical ships surrounded the planet-eating creatures. Each ship was larger than anything in the Commonwealth fleet. The Devourers had learned from consuming other civilizations. Their technology improved with every world they destroyed. Any word from our human allies? He asked. Communications Officer Veltar checked her instruments. Nothing since Admiral Chen's last message, sir. But our long-range sensors show hyperspace disturbances in Sector 7. Something is coming. The Admiral floated quietly, thinking about what he knew of humans. The Commonwealth's intelligence files were thin. Humans had appeared in nearby space systems only 50 years ago. They seemed to be explorers and traders, much like the Zalathi had been before developing their diplomatic corps. Human technology appeared roughly equal to Zalathi civilian standards. Their ships were functional but not impressive. They showed interest in trade but no signs of advanced military capabilities. Most species the Commonwealth dealt with were similar, peaceful peoples who had moved beyond the need for warfare. "Sir," called the intelligence officer from her station. "I've been reviewing the human files. Something seems odd." "What do you mean?" Kethvar swam over to her workstation. "Their exploration pattern. Most young civilizations send ships randomly, looking for resources or habitable worlds. But the humans, look at this." She brought up a star chart showing human ship movements over the past 50 years. "They're not exploring randomly. They're mapping defensive positions." Kethvar studied the pattern. The human ships had visited every major star system within 100 light-years of their territory. They had taken detailed scans of space lanes, defensive positions, and military installations. "Perhaps they're just very careful explorers," suggested Veltar. "Or very good spies," muttered the intelligence officer. Before anyone could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the command center. "Hyperspace signatures detected," called the sensor operator. Multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The main screen switched to show space above Zelathi Prime. Bright flashes marked ships returning to normal space. But these weren't the cargo vessels or evacuation transports Kethvar had expected. The human ships were angular and brutal-looking, covered in weapon batteries and armor plating. They moved with military precision, forming attack formations as soon as they appeared. Kethvar counted 12 vessels, each one bristling with more firepower than the entire Commonwealth defense fleet. "Those are warships," whispered the tactical officer. Kethvar felt his blood chill. Had the humans misunderstood their plea for help? Did they think the Zelathi were asking for military assistance against an enemy that could be fought? "Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered quickly. "I need to warn them." The communication system connected to the lead human ship. "Zelathi Commonwealth, this is Admiral James Chen of the Terran Navy battleship Indomitable. We are in position and ready to engage hostile forces." "Admiral Chen," Kethvar said urgently, "you don't understand the situation. These devourers cannot be fought with conventional weapons. They have destroyed every military force sent against them. Your ships. They're brave to come here, but you should evacuate your crews while there's still time." There was a pause. When Chen spoke again, his voice carried what sounded like amusement. "Admiral Kethvar, I appreciate your concern, but I think there may be some misunderstanding about human military capabilities. We've reviewed the tactical data you transmitted. These devourers are certainly dangerous, but they're not invincible. Admiral, they have thousands of ships. My scans show you have only 12 vessels. 12 ships for the advanced screening force, yes. Don't worry, Admiral. We have more than enough firepower to handle this situation." Kethvar stared at the display showing the human fleet. 12 ships against thousands. Either these humans were incredibly brave or completely insane. Probably both. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "the Devourer advanced scouts are entering the outer system. ETA to engagement range 40 minutes. On the tactical display, dark shapes appeared at the edge of sensor range. The Devourer fleet moved like a living thing, with the smaller ships protecting the massive planet eaters in the center. As they approached, their true size became clear. The smallest Devourer vessel was 3 times larger than Admiral Chen's flagship. "Admiral Chen," Kethvar tried again, "please reconsider. These creatures have consumed dozens of civilizations. They adapt to whatever weapons are used against them. There is no shame in retreating." "That's very thoughtful, Admiral, but retreating isn't really something humans do very well. Besides, someone needs to teach these Devourers some manners." The human fleet began moving toward the enemy. Their ships accelerated faster than anything Kethvar had seen before, closing the distance to engagement range in minutes instead of hours. "All Commonwealth vessels are to remain in defensive positions around the planet," Chen continued. "We'll handle the initial contact. If any Devourers get past us, feel free to join in." Kethvar watched in growing horror as the tiny human fleet approached the massive enemy formation. The Devourers had detected them now and were changing course to intercept. Weapon systems that could crack moons began charging up on the biomechanical ships. "They're targeting the human fleet," reported the tactical officer. "Energy buildup suggests weapons more powerful than anything we've ever recorded." The first exchange of fire lit up space like a newborn star. Beams of energy that could melt asteroids lashed out from the Devourer ships, striking the human vessels with enough force to vaporize a Commonwealth cruiser. The human ships kept coming. Not only did they survive the initial attack, but their armor barely showed damage. As Kethavar watched in amazement, the human ships returned fire with weapons he didn't recognize. Beams of coherent plasma, technology, the Commonwealth had theoretical knowledge of but had never seen deployed, cut through devourer hulls like they were made of paper. That's impossible, breathed the tactical officer. Those energy readings, how did they generate that much power in such small ships? The lead human ship, Chen's flagship Indomitable, fired a single shot at a devourer cruiser. The enemy vessel, easily 10 times larger, split in half and exploded in a ball of superheated gas. Admiral Chen, Kethavar called over the communication channel. How did you do that? Standard plasma torpedo, Admiral. We've been refining the design for about 30 years now. Very effective against organic hulls. Standard? Kethavar felt his understanding of human technology crumble. If this was their standard weaponry, what did their advanced systems look like? The battle continued with results that defied everything the Zilathi knew about space combat. The human ships moved through devourer formations like predators among prey, their weapons carved through enemy vessels with surgical precision, while their armor shrugged off attacks that should have destroyed them. But the most disturbing part was how the humans fought. There was no panic, no desperate heroics. They destroyed enemy ships with the calm efficiency of farmers harvesting crops. When one human vessel took heavy damage to its weapon systems, it simply rammed the nearest devourer ship while continuing to fire with whatever gun still worked. Sir, called Veltar, her voice shaking. I'm receiving a transmission from the devourer fleet. They're requesting communication with the human commander. Kethavar's tentacles went limp with shock. In all recorded history, the devourers had never tried to communicate with their victims. They simply consumed and moved on. Put it through, Chen's voice came over the channel. Let's hear what they have to say. The alien voice that came through the speakers was like grinding metal mixed with insect chittering. The translation system worked hard to make sense of it. Human fleet, we do not understand your weapons. Our ships cannot adapt to your attack patterns. What species are you? Chen's reply was calm and matter-of-fact. We're humans from the Sol system, and you've made a very big mistake coming to this star system. We do not make mistakes. We consume. It is our nature. Well, said Chen, consuming is about to become a lot more dangerous for you. I suggest you find a new hobby. The communication ended. The devourer fleet was regrouping, pulling back from the human ships. For the first time in recorded history, they were retreating. Kethavar floated in stunned silence as he watched the impossible scene unfold on his tactical display. 12 human ships had stopped a devourer invasion fleet that had consumed dozens of worlds. What exactly had the Zilathi called for help? The devourer fleet pulled back to the edge of the Zilathi system, but Admiral Kethavar knew they wouldn't leave. These creatures had never retreated from prey before. They were studying the human ships, learning, adapting. Soon they would return with new weapons and tactics. Admiral Chen, Kethavar called over the communication channel. The devourers are regrouping. They're known for adapting quickly to new threats. You should use this time to evacuate your ships. Chen's laugh carried clearly through the speaker. Admiral, I think you're still not understanding our situation here. We didn't come to evacuate. We came to solve your devourer problem. But there are thousands of them. Your 12 ships fought bravely, but 12 ships? Chen interrupted. Oh, Admiral, those were just the advanced scouts. The main fleet will be here shortly. As if summoned by his words, space began filling with new hyperspace signatures. But instead of dozens more ships, hundreds appeared. The human fleet that materialized around Zilathi Prime was larger than any military force the Commonwealth had ever seen. Kethavar stared at the tactical display in growing shock. Ship after ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, each one larger and more heavily armed than the last. Massive vessels that dwarfed even the biggest devourer ships took position in perfect battle formations. This is impossible, whispered the tactical officer. Where did they get so many warships? Intelligence reports said humans only had a few dozen colonies. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication channel again. Admiral Kethavar, allow me to correct some misunderstandings about human space. What you've been calling our colonies are actually fortress worlds. Every human settlement is a military installation, designed to project force across multiple star systems. The intelligence officer at her station made a choking sound. Admiral, I'm reading the energy signatures from these ships. Their smallest vessels carry more firepower than our entire defense fleet. Their largest ships. I can't even calculate the destructive potential. How is this possible? Kethvar asked over the open channel. Your species has only been in space for a few hundred years. True, Chen replied, but those have been a very busy few hundred years. You see, Admiral, humans don't really do peace the way other species do. Every world we've settled has faced hostile conditions. Dangerous predators, aggressive neighbors, resource conflicts. We've been fighting something or someone since the day we left Earth. On the tactical display, the human fleet finished forming into attack groups. The formations were unlike anything in Zelathi military theory. Instead of protective screens around capital ships, every vessel was positioned to provide maximum offensive firepower while maintaining overlapping defensive fields. Those aren't exploration ships, breathed Kethvar. They're weapons of war. Every human ship is designed for combat first, everything else second, Chen confirmed. The traders you met earlier? They were intelligence operatives mapping potential threats and allies. The questions they asked about your underwater construction? They were evaluating your defensive capabilities. Kethvar felt cold water flow through his gills as understanding dawned. You've been preparing for war since the day you met us. Not war against you, Admiral. War against whatever might threaten our friends. Humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We've been preparing for a very long time. The Devourer fleet began moving again, approaching from multiple directions. They had split their forces and adapted their formation to counter what they had learned from the first engagement. Biomechanical ships surrounded the Planet Eaters in layered defensive shells, while specialized attack vessels moved to flanking positions. Clever, Chen observed. They learned fast, but not fast enough. The human response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships that Kethvar now realized were merely destroyers opened fire with weapons that made their earlier plasma torpedoes look like children's toys. Beams of pure energy carved through, Devourer formations while kinetic, projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through the thickest biomechanical armor. But the most terrifying revelation came when the human capital ships joined the battle. These massive vessels deployed weapons that warped space itself, creating gravitational anomalies that crushed enemy ships into singularities. Others fired streams of microscopic machines that dissolved Devourer hulls from the inside out. What are those weapons? Kethvar asked in horror. Gravitational torpedoes and nanoswarm missiles, Chen replied casually. We developed them for dealing with heavily armored targets. Very effective against organic mechanical hybrid construction. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was an extermination. The humans fought with a coordinated precision that spoke of centuries of experience in space warfare. Every shot was calculated, every movement planned. They destroyed Devourer ships faster than the creatures could adapt to their tactics. When a cluster of biomechanical vessels tried to break through the human lines to reach Zelathi Prime, 3 human cruisers intercepted them. The lead cruiser, badly damaged and venting atmosphere, rammed the largest Devourer ship while its crew evacuated through escape pods. Both vessels exploded in a fireball that lit up the planet's night side. The crew of the Retribution? Kethvar asked. All evacuated safely, Chen reported. Standard ramming protocol. The ship's AI will continue fighting until complete structural failure. Standard ramming protocol. The Zelathi had developed their entire military doctrine around avoiding casualties and preserving equipment. These humans treated ship-killing attacks as routine tactics. The tactical display showed the Devourer fleet fragmenting under the human assault. These creatures that had consumed dozens of civilizations were being systematically destroyed by a species the Zelathi had assumed were peaceful traders. Admiral Chen, Kethvar called over the communication channel. The Devourers are trying to retreat. Shouldn't you let them go? Negative, Admiral. These creatures have been consuming inhabited worlds for decades. Time to stop that behavior permanently. Human ships pursued the fleeing Devourers across the star system. The Planet Eaters themselves, massive creatures that could swallow moons, tried to escape into hyperspace. Human interdiction fields trapped them in normal space while specialized ships moved in for the kill. Kethvar watched in fascination and horror as humanity revealed the true nature of their civilization. These weren't explorers who happened to carry weapons. They were apex predators who had been disguised as harmless neighbors. Admiral, his intelligence officer called out, I'm detecting communication traffic between the human ships. They're coordinating something called Red Sky Protocol. The answer came when the last of the fleeing devourers reached the edge of the system. Instead of letting them escape, the human fleet fired a coordinated barrage that turned the entire area of space into a roiling cloud of superheated plasma. The explosions were so massive they could be seen from the planet's surface as a red glow across the sky. Red Sky Protocol? Kethvar asked. Total elimination of hostile forces, Chen replied. No survivors, no witnesses. No possibility of the enemy learning from this encounter and adapting for future attacks. The communication channel crackled as Chen opened. A new frequency, one that transmitted across the entire galaxy on all known wavelengths. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to delivering ultimatums to entire civilizations. To all devourer forces, wherever you may be hiding in the galaxy, you have just witnessed the destruction of your invasion fleet at Zilathi Prime. This is your only warning. Any devourer vessel found operating against inhabited worlds will be hunted down and destroyed. Your species has 24 hours to cease all consumption activities and withdraw to uninhabited space. The transmission ended, leaving silence across all communication channels. Kethvar floated in stunned disbelief. Admiral Chen, you're declaring war on the entire devourer species? Not declaring war, Admiral. Ending 1. The devourers have been at war with every peaceful civilization in this galaxy for generations. It's time someone fought back effectively. As the human fleet began forming into new formations around Zilathi Prime, Kethvar realized the truth about his new allies. The Zilathi had called for help from what they thought were fellow peaceful explorers. Instead, they had summoned the galaxy's most dangerous military force. The sky above Zilathi Prime glowed red with the light of burning devourer ships. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. And somewhere in the depths of space, the survivors of other devourer attacks were receiving a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The humans had arrived, and they were very, very angry. 3 days after the Battle of Zilathi Prime, Admiral Kethvar received reports that changed his understanding of the galaxy forever. The humans hadn't just defeated the devourer invasion fleet. They had tracked down and destroyed every devourer vessel within 50 light-years of Zilathi space. How is this possible? Kethvar asked Admiral Chen during their daily briefing. The human commander appeared on the main screen from his flagship, which now orbited Zilathi Prime like a protective moon. Simple logistics, Admiral, Chen replied. When we committed to helping the Zilathi Commonwealth, we committed completely. Half measures just create future problems. The tactical display showed the results of human efficiency. Red markers indicated destroyed devourer installations across dozens of star systems. Each marker represented what had once been a harvesting operation capable of consuming entire worlds. But the resources required. Kethvar struggled to understand the scale of the operation. You've deployed hundreds of ships across multiple sectors simultaneously. Actually, thousands of ships, Chen corrected. What you've seen here is just one battle group. The Terran Navy maintains similar forces in 37 different sectors. Kethavar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as his mind tried to process this information. The Commonwealth intelligence estimates had been catastrophically wrong. Humans weren't a small, peaceful species with limited military capabilities. They were a galactic superpower that had been hiding in plain sight. Admiral Chen interrupted Communications Officer Veltar. We're receiving priority transmissions from across the galaxy. The Centauri Republic, the Vegan Trade Union, the hegemony of worlds, they all want to establish diplomatic contact with humanity. Chen's expression didn't change. Tell them to submit formal requests through the Commonwealth. You're our allies now. All diplomatic contact goes through Zilathi Prime. Kethvar felt a chill run through his water-filled chambers. In 3 days, the political landscape of their entire region had shifted completely. Species that had never paid attention to the Commonwealth now wanted to speak with them, because they were humanity's friends. The Andromedan Empire is also requesting contact, Veltar continued. They're offering significant trade concessions and military support against mutual enemies. The Andromedans? Kethvar's tentacles twitched with nervousness. They've been the dominant military power in this sector for over 1,000 years. Why would they want to negotiate with humans? Chen's smile was not reassuring. Probably because we destroyed their forward observation post in the Kepler 438 system yesterday. They were monitoring our operations against the Devourers. You attacked the Andromedan Empire? We removed a spy installation that was gathering intelligence on Commonwealth space, Chen corrected. The Andromedans are welcome to file a formal complaint through proper diplomatic channels. The communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. The face that appeared on screen belonged to no species. Kethvar recognized, crystalline features with multifaceted eyes and a voice like breaking glass. I am Sub-Commander Krixtal of the Andromedan Imperial Navy, the alien said. I speak on behalf of Emperor Vexthar himself. We wish to establish immediate diplomatic relations with the human government. Chen leaned back in his command chair. Sub-Commander, I'm Admiral James Chen of the Terran Navy. All diplomatic contact with humanity goes through our allies in the Zelathi Commonwealth. Please direct your request to Admiral Kethvar. The Andromedan's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. The Zelathi? But they are a minor power. Surely the human government would prefer direct communication with the Empire. The Commonwealth asked for our help when they were in danger, Chen replied. That makes them our allies. We don't abandon our friends for political convenience. After the transmission ended, Kethvar floated in silent amazement. The humans had just forced the most powerful empire in the sector to negotiate through the Commonwealth. A collection of aquatic species that most galactic powers barely acknowledged. Admiral Chen, he said carefully, what exactly are human intentions in this region of space? Protection of our allies and maintaining peace through superior firepower, Chen replied without hesitation. Same as always. Over the following days, more reports arrived that painted an increasingly clear picture of human capabilities. The Devourer species, which had terrorized the galaxy for generations, was being systematically hunted to extinction. Human hunter-killer fleets appeared wherever Devourer ships were detected, often arriving before local defense forces even knew there was a threat. How do you find them so quickly? Kethvar asked during one of their briefings. Advanced sensor networks and quantum communication relays, Chen explained. We've been building the infrastructure for decades. Every human settlement includes early warning systems that monitor hundreds of light years in all directions. The intelligence officer at her station made a choking sound. Admiral, if humans have been monitoring our space for decades, they knew about the Devourer threat long before we did. Chen nodded. We've been tracking Devourer movements for 37 years. We knew they would eventually reach Commonwealth space. Then why didn't you warn us? Kethvar demanded. Because you wouldn't have believed us, Chen replied simply. Most species assume that their problems can be solved through negotiation and compromise. Humans learned long ago that some enemies only understand violence. The tactical display updated with new reports from across the galaxy. Human forces had appeared in 17 different star systems, all previously threatened by Devourer activity. In each case, the result was the same: complete elimination of hostile forces and establishment of permanent monitoring stations. You're building an empire, Kethvar realized. We're building a defense network, Chen corrected. Every species humanity protects becomes part of a mutual security arrangement. Attack one member, face the combined response of all members. Communications Officer Veltar looked up from her station with wide eyes. Admiral, I'm receiving a transmission from the Devourer home cluster. They're surrendering. The main screen filled with the image of a massive biomechanical construct that hurt to look at directly. The voice that emerged was the sound of dying stars. Human Fleet Commander, we acknowledge defeat. The Devourer swarms will withdraw to uninhabited space and cease consumption of worlds containing sapient life. We request only that the hunting cease. Chen was quiet for a long moment before responding. Withdrawal is not sufficient. Your species has consumed millions of lives across hundreds of worlds. Justice requires more than retreat. What do you demand? Complete genetic records of every species you've consumed. Full restoration data for all destroyed worlds. Reparations to surviving populations. And permanent submission to galactic monitoring. The silence that followed lasted several minutes. When the Devourer finally responded, its voice carried something that might have been fear. These terms are acceptable. We will comply. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. They surrendered, whispered Veltar. The Devourers actually surrendered. Survival instinct, Chen explained. They realized that fighting humans was evolutionary suicide. Better to submit than face extinction. Ketvar studied the human admiral on his screen. What happens now? Now we establish a new order in this region of space. The Commonwealth becomes the regional capital for human-protected systems. You'll need to expand your facility significantly. You're about to become very popular. And if we don't want this responsibility? Chen's expression grew serious. Admiral, your people called for help when they faced extinction. We answered that call and eliminated the threat permanently. In human culture, that creates bonds that don't break easily. The Commonwealth is under our protection now, whether you want it or not. Through the transparent walls of the command center, Ketvar could see human ships patrolling the space around Zalathi Prime. Massive vessels that could crack planets moved in formations designed for maximum intimidation. The sky above his world would never again be free of human warships. Is this what humans call friendship? He asked. This is what humans call family, Chen replied. And family protects family no matter the cost. As more diplomatic requests flooded in from across the galaxy, Ketvar began to understand the true implications of humanity's arrival. The peaceful Commonwealth he had known was gone forever, replaced by something larger and more dangerous than anything the galaxy had seen before. The humans had come to help, and in doing so they had changed everything. 6 months after the Battle of Zalathi Prime, Admiral Ketvar swam through corridors that had changed beyond recognition. The Commonwealth capital had grown from a peaceful underwater city to the diplomatic center of an entire sector. Alien delegations from dozens of species now filled the crystal halls, all seeking audience with the humans who had reshaped galactic politics overnight. Status report, Ketvar called as he entered the expanded command center. The facility had been rebuilt with human technology, allowing it to monitor space traffic across 50 star systems simultaneously. 17 new applications for human protection this week, reported his aide, now promoted to handle interspecies relations. The Kalari Federation is offering their entire industrial output in exchange for defense guarantees. The Spiral Arm Coalition wants to join our mutual defense treaty. Ketvar studied the tactical display that now showed human fleet positions across hundreds of light years. Red zones marked areas where Devourer forces had once operated. All were now empty except for automated monitoring stations and the occasional human patrol. Any word from Admiral Chen? He's in the Outer Rim, hunting down the last Devourer holdouts, replied Communications Officer Veltar. The human hunter-killer fleets have eliminated 97% of known Devourer installations. The remaining 3% are hiding in deep space. The numbers were staggering. In 6 months, humanity had accomplished what the galaxy's combined military forces had failed to do in decades. They had broken the Devourer threat permanently. Not through negotiation or containment, but through systematic extermination. Incoming priority transmission, Veltar announced. It's from the Terran Navy headquarters. The main screen flickered to show Admiral Sarah Chen, the sister of the man who had saved Zalathi Prime. Her face was grim as she spoke. Admiral Ketvar, we're receiving reports of a new threat in the Andromeda Spiral. A species called the Harvesters has been attacking peaceful worlds along the Outer Rim. 3 civilizations have been completely destroyed in the past month. Ketvar felt his heart sink. Another planet-eating species? Worse. The Harvesters don't consume worlds. They enslave populations and strip mine entire star systems. Our intelligence suggests they're moving toward inhabited space. The tactical display updated to show the new threat. Massive fleets of geometric ships were advancing through previously unknown regions of space, leaving dead systems in their wake. What do you need from the Commonwealth? Ketvar asked. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. Actually, Admiral, this time it's the Commonwealth that needs to make a choice. The threatened worlds are requesting human intervention, but they're not our allies. Under Terran Navy protocols, we can only act in defense of member species. Then invite them to join our alliance, Ketvar replied without hesitation. That's the problem. There are 12 different species requesting protection, spread across 43 star systems. Adding them to our defense network would triple our area of responsibility. Ketvar was quiet for a moment, thinking about how much the Commonwealth had changed. 6 months ago, they had been a small alliance of aquatic species focused on trade and exploration. Now they were the regional headquarters for a military alliance that spanned multiple sectors. Admiral Chen, what would happen if we refused to expand? The harvesters would destroy those civilizations, probably billions of lives lost. And if we accept, the Commonwealth becomes responsible for the defense of 43 star systems. You'd need to expand your diplomatic corps by several thousand%. Your homeworld would become the de facto capital of a multi-species empire. Through the command center's transparent walls, Kethavar could see the construction ships building new facilities around Zilathi Prime. Human engineering teams worked alongside Commonwealth builders, creating structures that could house diplomatic missions from hundreds of different species. How long do we have to decide? He asked. The Harvester fleet will reach the first inhabited system in 72 hours, Admiral Chen replied. If we're going to act, we need authorization soon. The communication ended, leaving Kethavar alone with a decision that would determine the future of his people. The Commonwealth Council would need to vote, but he knew what the result would be. They had learned the cost of ignoring threats to peaceful civilizations. Veltar, call an emergency session of the Commonwealth Council, he ordered. Full session, all member species. 2 hours later, representatives from the 3 Commonwealth species gathered in the council chambers. The Zilathi delegation floated in their water-filled section, while the air-breathing Kelrani and the methane-dependent Vortak occupied their respective environmental zones. Fellow councilors, Kethavar began, we face a choice that will define our species for generations to come. He explained the situation with the harvesters and the human request for authorization to intervene. As he spoke, he watched the faces of his colleagues change from concern to determination. The question before us is simple, he concluded. Do we accept responsibility for protecting species we've never met, knowing it will change our civilization forever? Councillor Velmar of the Kelrani spoke first. 6 months ago, we were facing extinction. The humans saved us without asking for payment or territorial concessions. How can we refuse to extend that same protection to others? The burden will be enormous, warned Councillor Thexpo of the Vortak. We'll be responsible for maintaining peace across dozens of star systems. The alternative is allowing genocide, while we have the power to prevent it, Kethavar replied. What kind of civilization would that make us? The vote was unanimous. Within hours, the Commonwealth's formal invitation went out across subspace to the threatened species. The response was immediate and overwhelming. All 12 civilizations accepted membership in the expanding alliance. Admiral Chen's fleet was already moving before the bureaucratic formalities were complete. Human ships appeared in the outer systems just as Harvester scout forces arrived. The first battle was brief and decisive. The Harvester's geometric vessels proved no match for human gravitational weapons and nanoswarm missiles. But unlike the Devourers, the Harvesters were intelligent enough to recognize superior force when they encountered it. After losing their advance fleets, they sent a communication to the human commander. Human vessels, we did not know these systems were under your protection. The Harvester Collective withdraws from this region. Admiral James Chen's response was broadcast across the galaxy on all frequencies. All inhabited systems are under human protection now. Any species that attacks civilian populations will face the combined military response of the Terran Navy and our allies. This is your only warning. The message was clear to every civilization listening. The galaxy now had a single, unified defense force, and it was run by humans who didn't negotiate with aggressors. Over the following months, more species requested membership in what had become known as the Commonwealth Alliance. Each new member brought resources, technology, and strategic territory, expanding human influence across vast regions of space. Kethavar found himself in the strange position of being one of the most powerful individuals in the galaxy. As the senior Commonwealth representative, he had direct access to human military commanders and significant influence over alliance policy. Any regrets? Admiral Chen asked during one of their regular briefings. Kethavar looked out at the bustling space around Zilathi Prime. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species moved in organized patterns, protected by human warships that could destroy planets. Construction crews were building new facilities every day to handle the constant flow of diplomatic and trade missions. My people called for help, he said finally. You answered that call and gave us something we never expected, the power to help others. Is that a yes or no on the regrets? Kethavar's tentacles curled in what humans had learned was a Zilathi smile. Ask me again in 100 years. The communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. This time it came from a region of space the Alliance had never contacted before. "This is the Cygnus Republic," the transmission began. "We are under attack by a species that calls itself the Legion of Iron. Our worlds are falling. We have heard rumors of a human alliance that protects peaceful civilizations. Please, if you can hear this message, we offer everything we have in exchange for your help." Admiral Chen looked at Kethvar expectantly. The decision was always the Commonwealth's to make. Kethvar activated the response system. "Cygnus Republic, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Commonwealth Alliance. We have received your distress call. Stand by, aid is en route." As he spoke the words, Kethvar felt the weight of history. 6 months ago, his people had sent a similar message into the void hoping someone would answer. Now they were the ones answering, backed by the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever known. Through the command center's walls, he could see human ships already beginning to move toward the new crisis. Admiral Chen was coordinating fleet movements with the calm efficiency that had become humanity's trademark. Somewhere in the Cygnus Republic, people were looking up at their darkening skies and hoping for salvation. They didn't know it yet, but help was already on the way. And when it arrived, those skies would turn red with the light of burning enemy ships.